Hey, I try to be as friendly and give as many warnings as I can to people when it comes to, what Microsoft is doing. And in general, I know a lot of people don't look at what I'm doing as to be like a service. A lot of people think I'm salty or mad or whatever. I'm not. I think I'm more worried for my own collection of games and things like that, because the Xbox Series X and S are riddled with DRM, and people don't even realize it, but it happens all the time where you can't connect to the server and you won't be able to play your games, even disc games. And if Microsoft stops hardware, the thing that they could do is they would either maybe say, okay, well, you can play your stuff through the cloud, which I have zero interest in because that's not preservation or backwards compatibility, or they just stop altogether, and I have no interest in that. So for me, it's a kind of lose-lose situation, and I always promote physical. And I know for some reason people look at, and when they hear physical games, and they just think that it's like the worst thing in the world. I don't understand that thought process, because nobody's going to come into your house and take away your physical disc. Okay, and if you take proper care of your consoles, they can last you a very long time. That doesn't mean that you don't have to, do things to keep your consoles in running shape. Like my NES, my original NES, I replaced the connector pins on that. I keep it clean. My, my 360s, my PS3s, I make sure that I re-thermal paste those. I make sure that I keep them dust free and clean, and you do things to keep things relatively in running shape, and it'll last you a very, very long time. I still have my original games for my NES. It's so funny when people in the comments or on Twitter or wherever else tell me, oh, well, you're just really buying a license, you can't really, they can take that from you at any time. I'm like, good luck. You think NES is going to come, like Nintendo's going to come rolling up on me and be like, hey, you've got 250 NES games, give them back? Or you know what I'm saying? Or Microsoft's going to come rolling up on me and say, you've got thousands of Xbox games, give them back. Like, it's not going to work that way for physical games. It doesn't work that way. With that being said, this is why physical is so important, and we're losing part of the history. And the problem is that video games are an art form, and at the end of the day, that art form, we're losing more and more of that, right? So many of you probably don't know this, but recently my folks unearthed a box of mine Sega Genesis stuff, like a Sega Genesis, a good amount of games in there, a lot of them complete games and stuff. So I'm sitting there playing through these Sega Genesis games real quick. I'm testing them out. I'm like getting lost in this for hours, mind you, and I'm just like, it's a real shame, because out of all the Sega Genesis games I played, pretty much only the Sonic games are available nowadays. I guess the Jurassic Park game is, but there was so many games that I was playing through that just you cannot play those anymore, man. There's some really good X-Men games on Sega Genesis. I don't think you can play those anywhere else. There's just so many games that are lost to the sands of time, and you can never get the chance to play those. So it's sad to me when we actually do get a chance to play games, and this kind of happens. So you guys might not have noticed this, but apparently an Xbox 360 launch title was removed from the Microsoft Store without warning. And this might not necessarily be Microsoft's own doing, but Condemned Criminal Origins has been delisted from Microsoft's store just ahead of the game's 20th anniversary. So again, but it's just like people can just remove these things without a warning, and you won't be able to get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I own physical copies of the game, but I know not everybody does. Sega and Monolith Productions' classic 360 title Condemned Criminal Origins has been delisted from the Xbox Store without any warning. On the same day, October 31st, 2025, the game was removed from PC gaming storefront Steam. It's a move that has taken fans of the survival horror game by surprise, although the timing of the delisting just ahead of the game's 20th anniversary seems a little suspect. The delisting still will inevitably make it harder for Xbox console owners to access the Condemned Criminal Origins achievements. However, the game did get a pretty big physical launch on the Xbox 360 back in 2005. Grabbing a secondhand copy shouldn't be too much of an issue, although now that it's been delisted, those prices probably will go up. This is the way that the world works, unfortunately, when it comes to some of these games and things like that. It's just a shame that we've lost one of the best backwards compatible Xbox 360 titles that was available digitally on the Series X and S and Xbox One just so suddenly. And again, this is the big issue with this, right? Like there's no warning, there's no, oh hey, you might want to go ahead and pick this game up, while you can. There's none of that. It's just like, oh, the game's here one day, gone the next. And that's the real issue, I think, going forward from Microsoft and these types of things, because why wouldn't they just continue to delist things, right? Like, people don't understand it, and people get so enthralled with easeability and, oh hey, this is we're lazy, so digital, and we like to rent our games, and then what happens is we get in these types of situations where the game rentals and stuff like that go away, and they're not staying there forever, and you're not able to get them later, and it's a bad sign, and it's a bad look for a lot of people. So the timing of it, Condemned's 20th anniversary is coming up this month, does raise potential that the classic game might be getting a remaster or a remake in the future. Some people have pointed to posts from several staff members, the team behind remasters of Doom and Doom 2, and System Shock 2, stating interest in remastering the series to Condemned IP holder ex-Monolith founder Jace Hall. If that speculation holds any weight, then it's possible that the first Condemned game won't be missing from the Xbox store for too long. Meanwhile, the game's sequel, Condemned 2 Bloodshot, was never released digitally, so if this series does make the remake treatment, there's a good chance that the acclaimed second title will finally get a wider release that many have hoped for. At any rate, it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out. Yeah, there's always something going on affecting achievements or affecting the availability of picking up these games. It's kind of sad to see that this has kind of happened. If you're a game collector, man, bravo to you, props to you. This was a good game. It was an eerie game. I can remember, this wasn't like as big a thing for me as like Gears of War. When I saw Gears of War on a 360, I was like, man, that's something I definitely got to get. But the funny thing that I remember is I got a game. I used to get Game Informer magazines all the time back in the day, and I saw one showing off this game running on a 360, and I was like, man, that 360 sounds, pretty incredible. I definitely want to get one. And it really kind of blew my mind, because that was a huge leap back then, right? Going from like PS2 and original Xbox to the 360, and that was something that I don't think we'll ever replicate again, unfortunately. I'm not saying that we'll ever see that we'll ever kind of end up seeing another generation like that. I know we're supposedly going to get the biggest leap ever or whatever Microsoft is doing next, but it seems to me that there's a lot of diminishing returns. And listen, I did a review on the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's on the channel. If you haven't seen it, you can check it out. But again, there's some games that look really good and you can maybe tell, and then there's games that you can't, man. I'm just playing a Series X, and then if you go and play it on the PS5 Pro, there's not really much of a difference. So it really, like, the diminishing returns, I can't imagine, they say, okay, well, the PS6 will be 3 times as powerful as the PS5. Cool. I just want to be able to play my games, get my 60 frames. Like, we're already getting that 98% of the time. I can't think of really any games that I played that was 30 frames. I think Starfield at first was, and then they even patched that. Redfield, but they patched that. Most of the games that we've been getting have been, pretty well optimized, so I can't really complain there. I hope they just kind of keep that into next generation as well, because honestly, like, it doesn't matter to me if it's like ray tracing or not. I think that was like this most overrated thing this generation, people going on and on about ray tracing. Honestly, I feel like that is probably one of the most overhyped things that I've ever seen in my life. It's like, honestly, because look, I play a lot of old games and I play retro games, and you guys might not look at this stuff as retro, but go back and play like Gran Turismo on the PS3 or Forza Motorsport 3 and 4 on the 360. Those games had like baked on lighting, and they looked amazing, right? I mean, honestly, do tips and do little tricks and stuff to make it look great and save yourself some performance. There shouldn't be like this huge amount of, issues when it comes to how the games look and run and things like that. So I think how the games run is much more important, and games are already looking great. Like, I thought they looked great last gen, man. Xbox One and PS4 were already doing great graphics. So it's hard to sit there and go, okay, well, I don't think we've jumped past that very much, but at least we're getting more 60 frames games now than we ever had before, and that's definitely a good thing. Go back and, an interesting game to look at is Star Wars Battlefront 2 from EA last gen. That game looks amazing even today, and I sometimes put some footage of that in my videos. I got a lot of footage from that game, and it just goes to show that these games can look absolutely incredible. And there's no ray tracing or anything on that. It just looks phenomenal. So anyway, I'll link this. Let me know what you guys think. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.